Freud reveals what attracts women to toxic men and why they're addicted to men. Picture this. Sarah is 28, successful, intelligent. She just broke up with another guy who treated her terribly. Her friends are confused. Her family is worried. And deep down, she's asking herself the same question you might be asking right now. Why do I keep choosing men? Who hurt me? If you've ever wondered why smart, or where women continue returning to men who cause them pain, Freud had an explanation that might shock you. And before we dive deep into the unconscious mind, hit that subscribe button if you want to understand what really drives human behavior. Trust me, this gets intense. The pattern everyone sees but no one talks about. We've all seen it. Maybe you've lived it. That friend who always ends up with the wrong guy. The sister who dates carbon copies of her toxic ex. The colleague who swears this time is different, but somehow finds herself in the exact same emotional cycle. Society loves to judge these women. She has daddy issues. She's just desperate. She needs to love herself more. But what if I told you that Freud discovered something much deeper and more complex about human desire? Something that has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with the unconscious mind's attempt to heal itself. Today, we're going to explore what Freud called the dark side of feminine desire, not to blame or shame, but to understand, because understanding is the first step to freedom. What Freud actually said about female desire. Let's get one thing straight. Freud wasn't trying to insult women. When he explored feminine psychology, he was trying to understand why human beings, all of us, make choices that seem to go against our own best interests. According to Freud, desire isn't logical. It doesn't follow the rules of what's good for us. Instead, desire is driven by unconscious forces that were formed in our earliest years, often before we could even speak. Think of your unconscious mind like the backstage area of a theater. On stage, your conscious mind, you're performing the role of a rational adult making smart choices. But backstage, there's a whole crew of childhood experiences, unresolved conflicts, and primitive emotions directing the show. For women, Freud observed that desire often carries an additional burden, the need to unconsciously repair early relationships, particularly with father figures or primary caregivers. This isn't about being weak. It's about the psyche's desperate attempt to rewrite history. Here's where it gets fascinating. Your unconscious mind doesn't want to avoid pain. Sometimes, it actively seeks situations that feel familiar, even when that familiarity is toxic. Why? Because familiarity feels like home, even when home was painful. The repetition compulsion, why we recreate our wounds. Freud identified something he called repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to repeat patterns from our past, especially traumatic or unresolved ones. It's like your psyche is a broken record, playing the same song over and over, hoping this time it will have a different ending. Let me give you a modern example. Jessica's father was emotionally unavailable, always working, never really present, giving her attention only when she achieved something impressive. Fast forward to her adult relationships, she consistently chooses men who are emotionally distant, who make her work for their attention, who withhold affection until she proves her worth. Her friends say, just find someone who appreciates you, but Jessica's unconscious mind isn't looking for appreciation. is looking for the chance to finally win her father's love by succeeding with a similar man. This is the cruel irony of repetition compulsion. We don't repeat patterns because we like them. We repeat them because we're unconsciously trying to master them, to finally get them right, to heal the original wound. The toxic man isn't attractive because he's toxic. He's attractive because he represents an unconscious opportunity for redemption. The psyche whispers, this time, you can make him love you. This time, you can prove you're worthy. This time, you can fix what went wrong before. The Oedipal complex. How early relationships shape adult desire. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Oedipus complex. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Freud wasn't suggesting women are literally attracted to their fathers. He was identifying how our first relationships create templates for all future relationships. Your relationship with your primary caregivers, usually your parents, becomes the unconscious blueprint for what love feels like. If love came with conditions, adult love will feel conditional. If love was unpredictable, chaos will feel romantic. If love required you to minimize yourself, you'll be drawn to partners who diminish you. This is particularly complex for women who had complicated relationships with father figures. Maybe dad was charming but unreliable. Maybe he was critical but occasionally warm. Maybe he was absent entirely, leaving behind a void that screams to be filled. Here's what happens in the unconscious. That little girl's unmet need for paternal love doesn't disappear when she grows up. It goes underground into the unconscious, where it influences every romantic choice she makes as an adult. The bad boy isn't appealing because he's bad. He's appealing because he recreates the emotional landscape of childhood, the uncertainty, the intermittent reinforcement, the feeling that love must be earned through suffering or performance, the fantasy of salvation when love becomes a healing mission. Freud understood that humans are meaning-making creatures. We can't just exist. We need our experiences to mean something. For women caught in toxic relationship patterns, the unconscious often creates what I call the fantasy of salvation. This fantasy goes something like this. If I can love this broken, difficult man enough, I'll prove that I'm worthy of love. If I can heal him, I'll heal myself. If I can make this relationship work, I'll retroactively fix everything that went wrong in my childhood. It's a beautiful fantasy, really. It transforms suffering into purpose, confusion into mission, pain into potential victory. The woman isn't just in a relationship. She's on a hero's journey to heal both herself and her partner. But here's the psychological trap. This fantasy keeps her focused on his potential rather than his reality. She falls in love with who he could become, not who he actually is. And because she's unconsciously trying to heal her own childhood wounds through him, she becomes addicted to the process of trying to save him. The intermittent reinforcement, those moments when he's sweet, when he shows vulnerability, when he seems to need her, creates a psychological pattern similar to addiction. Just like a gambler in a slot machine, she keeps playing because the next pull might be the jackpot that makes all the previous losses worthwhile. The role of self-worth in unconscious partner selection. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. How our unconscious self-image drives our romantic choices. Freud believed that we don't accidentally end up with partners who treat us badly. On some unconscious level, we choose them because they confirm what we believe we deserve. If your unconscious self-image was formed in an environment where love was scarce, conditional, or painful, then healthy, available love can actually feel foreign and uncomfortable. It doesn't match your internal template of what relationships should feel like. Think about it. If you grew up believing that love requires sacrifice, struggle, and proving your worth, then a man who simply loves and appreciates you might feel boring, wrong, too easy. Your unconscious mind might reject him because he doesn't activate the familiar patterns of longing and uncertainty that your psyche has learned to associate with real love. This is why women in these patterns often describe healthy men as too nice or say they don't feel that spark. The spark they're looking for isn't actually attraction, it's the activation of their childhood wounds. It's the familiar pain of unrequited longing dressed up as romantic chemistry. The toxic man doesn't make her feel special because he's special. He makes her feel special because loving him requires the same heroic effort she learned to associate with worthiness as a child. The cost, what this pattern does to your psyche. Let's be clear about something. This pattern isn't romantic and it isn't sustainable. It's psychologically exhausting. When you're unconsciously trying to heal childhood wounds through adult relationships, you're never really present in the actual relationship. You're relating to ghosts, to the parent who didn't love you enough, to the child who felt unworthy, to the fantasy of finally being chosen. This creates what Freud called neurotic anxiety, a constant state of tension because your conscious mind knows something is wrong, but your unconscious mind is driving the bus. You find yourself doing things that don't make logical sense, staying with someone who clearly doesn't value you, making excuses for inexcusable behavior, feeling addicted to someone who causes you pain. The cost isn't just the bad relationship, it's the erosion of your sense of self. When you're constantly trying to earn love that will never come, when you're perpetually auditioning for the role of worthy woman in someone else's story, you lose touch with your own inherent value. You become a person who exists in relation to others rather than as a complete being in your own right. And that, according to Freud, is a form of psychological death. Warning signs. How to recognize this pattern in your life. So how do you know if you're caught in this unconscious pattern? Freud would say to look for these signs. The fixer fantasy. You consistently find yourself attracted to men with potential. Addiction issues, emotional unavailability, commitment problems, believing that your love can change them. Intermittent reinforcement addiction. You get more excited by small gestures from an inconsistent partner than by grand gestures from someone who's consistently kind. The exception fantasy. You believe you'll be different from his ex-girlfriends, that you'll be the one who finally gets through to him, who inspires him to change. Healthy feels wrong, available. Emotionally stable men felt boring or friendship-like to you. Passion only seems to exist in chaos. Childhood echoes. Your romantic patterns mirror dynamics from your family of origin, especially with father figures or primary caregivers. The rescue mission. You feel more like a therapist than a girlfriend, constantly analyzing his behavior, making excuses for him to others, feeling responsible for his emotional well-being. Drama as connection. The relationship feels most real during fights, reconciliations, or crisis moments. Peaceful times feel disconnected or temporary. If you're recognizing yourself in these patterns, don't panic. Recognition is the first step toward freedom. Your unconscious mind isn't your enemy. It's just operating with outdated information. Freud's path of freedom. How to break the cycle. So what would Freud recommend for breaking free from these patterns? His answer was always the same. Make the unconscious conscious. Step 1. Radical self-honesty. Start by acknowledging the pattern without judgment. Write down your relationship history. Look for themes. What type of men do you consistently choose? What childhood experiences might these relationships be unconsciously trying to heal? Step 2. Explore your origin story. Freud believed that understanding your past was essential to changing your future. What was your relationship with your primary caregivers? How did you learn to get attention, love, and validation as a child? What did conflict look like in your family? Step 3. Practice feeling your feelings. Instead of immediately looking for a relationship to distract you from uncomfortable emotions, sit with them. Freud called this free association, allowing whatever comes up to surface without censoring it. Step 4. Challenge your love template. Start questioning what love means to you. Is it struggle? Is it earning someone's attention? Is it being needed? Begin to consider that real love might actually feel calm, secure, and consistent. Step 5. Seek professional help. Freud was a big believer in psychoanalysis, and for good reason. Having someone help you explore these unconscious patterns can accelerate your healing tremendously. You don't have to figure this out alone. Step 6. Practice receiving healthy love. This might be the hardest step, learning to receive love that doesn't require you to prove your worth. Start small, with friends, family members, or even pets. Notice how it feels to be appreciated simply for existing. The real victory, choosing consciousness over compulsion. Here's what Freud understood that many people miss. The goal isn't to never be attracted to the wrong person again. The goal is to be conscious enough to choose differently when you are. Breaking free from unconscious patterns doesn't mean you'll suddenly only be attracted to appropriate men. It means you'll recognize when your attraction is coming from your wounds versus your authentic desires. You'll be able to feel the pull of familiar dysfunction and consciously choose to step away from it. This is what Freud called psychological freedom, not the absence of unconscious drives, but the ability to observe them and choose your response. It's the difference between being driven by your past and being informed by it. The woman who breaks this cycle doesn't become someone different. She becomes more herself, the self that existed before childhood wounds taught her that love was supposed to hurt. Your unconscious isn't your enemy. If you've recognized yourself in this video, please remember this. Your unconscious mind isn't sabotaging you out of malice. It's trying to protect you using strategies that once made sense but no longer serve you. That little girl who learned to associate love with struggle was doing the best she could with the information she had. Your adult self gets to update that information and create new patterns based on what you know now. Freud's greatest gift to psychology wasn't his theories about sexuality or dreams. It was his insistence that we are not doomed to repeat our past. Unconsciously, with awareness, with courage, and often with help, we can choose differently. Your past doesn't have to be your future. Your wounds don't have to be your identity. And your unconscious patterns don't have to be your destiny. What patterns have you recognized in your own life? Have you found yourself repeatedly attracted to people who weren't good for you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, awareness is the first step to change. If this video helped you understand something about yourself or someone you care about, please like and share it. And subscribe for more deep dives into how your unconscious mind shapes your life. Remember, understanding yourself isn't selfish. It's the greatest gift you can give to everyone who loves you, including yourself. Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries of your own mind. Freud would be proud.